You've got really big, exciting, ambitious goals for 2019, but at the back of your mind, you're not sure that you can do this all on your own. And since quitting your job last year, going 100% full-time in your business, so your biggest financial priority right now is to replace your previous consistent salary, the last thing you know you want to do is to risk and detrimentally impact your family's financial future. And I know it sounds irrational, but all of us think this, and all of us have a bit of a fear that we're going to end up homeless or on the streets when we make this massive transition from taking away a consistent monthly employee salary and we start to go in this lumpy, uncertain entrepreneurial future. Now, deep down, you absolutely know you can do this. You feel it in your bones. You know that it is your time. But you know that to truly succeed, you can't do this alone. And entrepreneurship is an incredibly lonely place to be if you do pursue it on your own. And so that is why today we want to dive into this topic of who's got your back, so that we can set you up with the three fundamental ways that you need to build your support team to be able to successfully replace your salary whilst taking such a radical and unconventional leap into entrepreneurship. So the very, very first layer and the most critical piece of this puzzle is to be able to trust yourself. So no matter how confident, how self-assured, how certain you are when you set off on this path of entrepreneurship, as a first-time entrepreneur or as a serial entrepreneur who has made a massive pivot, setting up a new business, a second business, it really doesn't take long for the confusion, the overwhelm, and dare I say, a sense of desperation, particularly where money is concerned, starts to kick in. And now for myself, what I noticed when I first took the leap into entrepreneurship, and I have felt this since pivoting also in my business, is that I start to beat myself up every single day. So what I've noticed is I will say things to myself like, I should be able to do this. I should be earning more money by now. I should be working harder. I should cut back and save more money. I should sacrifice things that I personally want and really just pursue my business. I should be further ahead than where I am right now. Now, maybe you've heard the phrase that you can be your own worst enemy. And this, for me, is just phenomenally true. I can be my own worst bully. Now, I know that I have a fear of judgment, but frankly, my own judgment is far worse than anybody else's. And anybody else's has ever been to me in my entire life. And I know that this can happen, not just for me, but for so many other people. For all of my clients have been through this, and all of my business colleagues and associates have been through something very, very similar. And I promise you that you can learn to overcome this. It's not an overnight quick fix. There's no magic bullet to this. It really is about starting to notice your pattern of negativity, criticism, and judgment, and starting to put something in the way to stop that in its tracks. And what I like to call this is it's like a mindset reset. It's like you're flipping a light switch on in your brain, and instead of it being dark and negative and critical, you're switching it on to something where it's light. It opens you up, it's expansive again, and it allows you to become much more creative all over again. So the way I have noticed that I do this, so if I notice myself saying I should be doing more, I should be trying harder, that's an absolute alarm bell goes off in my head. You're being critical, you're being negative. And in those moments, I simply say something very simple to myself like, I'm doing the best I can. If I could do more, I would be doing more. And it really just grounds you in the moment. It puts you everything into perspective, and it's much more of a reality check. And repeatedly doing that, you may need to do it 20, 30, 40 times a day when you first start to do this, but over time you'll do it less and less and less. and it will allow you to just flip your mindset and then be able to become more focused and productive on what you need to do, rather than dwelling on and feeling sorry for yourself and criticizing yourself and getting lost in that kind of thought process, negative spiral thought process. So try that, and just simply those 2 phrases, try that and let me know how you get on. So the second thing I want to talk about, so the second layer of your support system, so for who's got your back, is to really make sure that you bring your spouse, your partner, any significant other person in your life, which could be your parents, on board with what you're doing. So as entrepreneurs, we are seriously forging a new way forward. There has really never ever been a better time to make your own money, doing what you love in a way that you want. But this is completely new territory to so many of us. And that can mean that things get really tricky when you make these unconventional choices and changes in your life. And people around you can become skeptical, uncertain, they can be negative, they can be critical, because they don't understand and they want to keep you safe and they're worried about you. So remember, they're worried about you. And so when we're making this type of radical choice to earn our own money in our own way, and we take away that consistency and predictability of a salary, which is something maybe your partner, your spouse, is still doing, they're still pursuing, and they're so used to, it can create a lot of friction, a lot of tension, and a lot of disconnect within your relationship, and it can make you feel even more isolated and lonely than you would be, than you even were before. So this to me is completely and utterly about leadership. It's about you being able to 100% take responsibility for your dream, your vision, and for you to be able to step up and lead the way within your relationship. Now, nobody else is going to be able to do this. You cannot expect your spouse to be able to envision what it is you're trying to achieve. They won't do that, and they aren't able to get inside your head and really see what it is that you see and what you're dreaming of. They don't know. They don't know what it is. It's not their responsibility to make your dream a reality. It is 100% your responsibility to make it a reality. And you really, really can do this. But you do need to bring them along the journey, and you do need to get them on board and understanding, and kind of caught up in the excitement and the ambition of what you're doing, even if they don't get the details, and they won't quite understand it until you get there and they see it for real. So I would highly recommend 2 things. You must constantly have a dialogue with this person, with your spouse. So then I recommend you get out of your normal environment and you go outside and you have an amazing conversation with them. Go outside into nature where it's relaxing, somewhere you feel confident, somewhere you feel comfortable opening up about difficult things, and share your vision and your dreams constantly, repeatedly. Keep it alive, keep them involved, help to reinforce that imagery for them. And secondly, remember that your spouse has emotional triggers too. So be very, very mindful of the things you share with them. You don't need to let them know all of your fears. So if you're not making money as quickly as you'd hoped, and it's starting to become a frustration in you, you're getting anxious, there's a lot of tension, you don't need to say and share that every single day with your spouse, because it could potentially increase the anxiety and cause more stress and more pressure. And don't expect them to happily and easily brainstorm solutions with you. They are not your business mastermind buddies. That's not their role. They are your husband, they are your parent, they are your spouse. That is not their role. And it can, when you're fearful in the moment, when you're worried about something, when you're anxious, remember that it can just be a fleeting moment. It might only be that day you're worried about it. Something's triggered it in you, and if you share that, you're going to trigger that in them. So obviously don't lie, don't withhold information, but be really mindful of when and how you share your own fears and your own anxieties around what you're doing, particularly when we're talking about money. And so that leads us into the third layer, and why this layer is so fundamentally important. And that is around building up your own A-team, your team of business BFFs, people you can turn to when you feel like you're freaking out, Your own pep talks just aren't enough. You don't want to trigger your partner. You don't want to bring in this emotional stress into your relationship and just dump it there and expect them to deal with it. But you know you need to share with somebody to help you make sense of it in that moment. And that's where business best friends are phenomenal. Like, I cannot say how valuable and helpful they have been to me in my journey so far. So these are people who are also in business, who are either in a very similar stage to you, they could be further ahead than you. A mixture of people who have been there, got the t-shirt, and have lived to fight another day. So you can pour your heart out, you can share whatever it is, get it all out there, and you know it'll be met with love, it'll be met with compassion, it'll be met with understanding, there'll be hope, and there'll be encouragement. And you can just lay it all out there, and you can trust that the response and the reaction is going to be positive and constructive and help you. So for me, this was the hardest piece and the last piece I probably put in place, having been so incredibly self-sufficient and working in a very, very male-dominated career in the corporate world previously. I never really had this experience in the past. So it wasn't something I openly went out and sought when I first became an entrepreneur, but it's something that I have very strongly implemented inside my business now, and my way of sharing and communicating and getting support for myself. And the experience and the outcomes from that have just been phenomenal. I cannot really explain how beneficial this can be without you actually experiencing it for yourself. Just like we talked about, it's hard for your spouse to understand what you're dreaming for without them seeing it come to reality. But this can very often be the missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of people. A lot of us can isolate ourselves. We're so used to be self-sufficient. Somebody like myself, who's a hypersensitive introvert, very much just that's my natural state. Some people call it turtling, so you just create a protective shell around yourself and you kind of shut the world out. I would highly encourage you to start to reach out. Take it one step at a time, one friend at a time, but start to develop some of these relationships with other people. So if you need a few ideas to get started, then firstly, check out some of the groups you're in, whether it's on Facebook, whether you've noticed anybody on Instagram or your local network groups, and start to ask them if anybody would be interested in being part of like a small mastermind group or meeting up once a month, just to kind of share where you are. Not necessarily to solve your business problems, but just to share and connect with the challenges that we go through on a daily basis and feel like you're not alone. Invite people to have coffee dates, and you can do this online, so you don't always have to meet people in person. You can have online coffee dates, which is absolutely amazing. Just a 30-minute online, it could be over Zoom, on Skype, whatever, and just get to know them. Just share something about yourself, share your experience, and just be open and vulnerable. And just remember, when you start to pursue this, is you don't need to be in the same type of business as them. In fact, I think it's better if you're not. It's probably better if you're all in different businesses, because then you're not focused on what you're delivering to your clients. You're actually able to focus your relationship on getting support for you, which a lot of us can find very, very difficult. So they are the 3 key layers to build up your support network as you pursue this unconventional path towards making your own money, stepping away from employment, and really thriving as an entrepreneur. Now, the stronger and the quicker you can build this support team, building up your own resilience, bringing your partner or key person who's inside your life on board, and establishing this really strong network of business best friends, the faster you will move through the tough times and the difficult times, the more resilient you're going to be. And the sooner you're going to replace your income from your previous salary, and you're going to be able to love and enjoy doing the work that you love, making a difference in the world, and finally feeling that freedom of entrepreneurship. So